Yeah, it is.
Because I'm a huge nerd who loves to roll dice and make stuff up. I like to imagine a lot of you folks out there are like-minded in this degree, I hope. Good. That's right. You got the right idea, Jackson. It's good. So, yeah, this panel, it's going to be a Q&A here in a moment, but before we get into that, I just want to discuss for a moment kind of the interesting rise of tabletop gaming in recent years. That includes board games, that includes RPGs. These are things I grew up with, and I'm sure a number of you folks in the audience grew up with over the past 10, 15, 20 or more years, and it was a definite subgenre of hobbyists. There wasn't, due to complete misunderstanding of the hobby of role-playing games, especially D&D back in the 70s, to just the general misunderstanding of what the idea was role-playing games were, how they were played, that a lot of folks just didn't have the opportunity to really try it out or see how it actually worked and how much fun it was. And now we have a new generation of folks that grew up with most of their forms of gaming entertainment being digital and online and remotely with other folks on Xbox Live, being shot by 12-year-olds using racial slurs over Xbox Live. And while that is a fulfilling experience in some way, shape, or form, nothing can really capture the experience of sitting around a table with a bunch of friends and playing Betrayal on the House of the Hill, or Mansions of Madness, or Munchkin and ruining friendships for weeks and weeks and weeks. Let alone actually sitting with some friends and creating your own characters and building a narrative that just kind of drives itself organically and having these experiences that you can recall years and years later like you were actually there. And that's kind of the pleasure of role-playing games and board games, is that social aspect, that kind of inherent tribal need that we as people that were once, roving nomad bands of families out in the wild, scrounging for berries, would sit around the fire and tell stories. And there's so much about our culture inherent in that experience. And through the digital age, I think an element of that was unintentionally lost for a while. And so I think after years and years of that being the norm, there's been this resurgence largely because innately we as human beings crave that type of contact, the ability to play a game or tell a story and see another person's face in front of you and see their reactions and see them laugh, see them cry, see them smile, see them, reel back in shock. And nothing really compares with that. And so I think in recent years there's been this resurgence and there's this re-understanding of having game nights or organizing with friends, as hard as it can be as we become adults with responsibilities and kids and all that stuff. Yeah, you understand. So it's been really exciting. It's been really cool to watch this reemergence, partially because people who had previously had weird judgments or really had no idea how these type of games worked are now showing interest and asking how do you play D&D? And then I explain, it's very simple. It's you and your friends improvising and telling communal stories, and then you roll the dice to justify whether or not a challenge succeeds or fails. And then you yes-and it, which is a general rule of improv. You just go with it and you continue the story based on the outcome. And they're like, oh, that's it? I thought it was some weird cult thing where you put on costume. They're like, you can be that, yeah. Many of us may have gone into the woods for a weekend to dress up as a character and LARP for a while, and that's awesome too. A little harder to describe in social settings, but nevertheless, it's the same general key. There's something so fun about experiencing and sharing this with other people. But now we're in an age where people are more open to this idea, and we're having a bunch of individuals realizing this isn't necessarily a nerd hobby, it's a hobby, and us nerds are just the first to find it, And so we're just slowly bringing the rest of the world in, and it's really fun. Exactly. Yeah, maybe they weren't that wrong. Maybe this is the best kind of cult you could join. I don't know. Which, as somebody on Twitter posted a picture a few days ago, somebody actually built a shrine to Taliesin and Percy with candles and the dice arranged in some sort of a glyph pattern to try and bless their dice with better rolls. And Taliesin said, "This is it. This is everything of my life has been to bring me to this moment. I have a cult. Which, knowing Taliesin, as some of you have gotten to know better past year, that's essentially the truth. He wasn't at all embellishing on that. But yeah, it's been really amazing. And on top of just games being games and fun, there's, just like the tribal experiences of sitting together in a fire and telling stories, it's a bonding experience. It builds community. It builds a sense of camaraderie and friendship that a lot of other more impersonal, creative experiences can't really create or construct. And even just our little Twitch show, we've watched such an incredible community rise up out of it that has transcended anything the show could ever possibly be. Like there's this incredible feeling of it's almost like we raised a powerful hero that grew up to want to be like Dad, but now Dad's like old and aged, and the son's like powerful and has Thor's hammer, and you're like, go out in the world and do the good that we don't have the strength to do, kid. It's a very weird analogy, but if you go with me on it worked better in my head than an actual usage of the words, which happens with most things I try and say. So bear with me. But yeah, it's been a really cool experience. And for those who haven't seen the show, it is a show called Critical Role on Geek and Sundry's Twitch. Woo! Me and a bunch of other, as many of you know the term, a bunch of us nerdy-ass voice actors sit around, roll dice, and play D&D. And it's every Thursday night for the most part. Some of us have. Yeah. We try and do as often as possible. We have to take breaks now and then because we're human beings. I know, what the hell? It's weird. But I know. But yet, whenever we do miss a game, we all get in our text thread that Thursday evening that we're not playing and be like, this feels weird. This feels wrong. But yeah, it's just been a really cool experience. We were worried at first. We were honestly very worried because we played privately for 2 years before it actually became a show, and we were very guarded because it's a personal thing. And for a lot of our players, which our players include, those who also aren't aware, we have Mercer Ray, my lady. Woo! Taliesin Chappie, who I mentioned earlier. Woo! We have Laura Bailey and Travis Willingham. Woo! All talented voice actors in all of their own rights. Liam O'Brien. Woo! Sam Riegel. Ashley Johnson. We have back temporarily on loan from Blind Spot. Curse you! Mainstream television, your successful on-camera career. I know. She's actually, she's not just her and the writers have slipped in a bunch of Critical Role references into the actual primetime show Blind Spot. We thought it was all her, and she told us, like, oh, we saw you slip in the mug or your mention of your gnome cleric on the show. She's like, I didn't put that in there, the writers put it in there. They watch the show now. But yeah, so we all started a game a few years ago because Liam decided that he wanted to play again since he was 15. And bunch of people who had never really played before. I got to introduce a bunch of folks into role-playing games, which I freaked them out at first, so when they came over to my apartment to play, I had my hood and cloak on and as they walked in, I was like, sit and do not speak till the dungeon master says it is so. Like, they were, oh no, is this the sequel Eyes Wide Shut? I don't know what's happening. It was perfect. But within 10 minutes, it clicked. Watching each one of them go like, oh, I'm just talking in character and making stuff up, and okay, let's do this, Once they gave themselves permission to go ahead and let go of any preconceptions of how the game would function and just dive in and have fun, they were all hooked. Yes. And so 2 years later, Felicia Day had gotten a conversation with Ashley, our cleric, at a party, and she talked about the game, and she was like, oh, well, you guys should do that on Geek and Sundry. And we were like, cameras. And they were like, well, we could film it and edit it and make it really fancy looking with the graphics. And we're like, we just want to play. And they're like, well, we have Twitch. I'm like, do you want to change anything? And we'll be able to make a whole bunch of mistakes on the internet and have it yell at us? Yes. Cool, let's do it. And so that's how the show came about. But yeah, it's definitely been a huge turning point in my life. Turning a hobby like this of mine that I'm so passionate about for so many years, and just discreetly mentioning it at certain social gatherings in case somebody heard it and went like, oh, Palladium universe, are you talking about rifts? And I'd be like, yes, let us abscond from all these strange normies and talk about the viability of MDC armor and glitter boy, ridiculous physics. Rifts is awful, I love it. But now we've watched this whole trend where the geeks, the nerds, the folks that grew up playing these games, and playing video games and reading sci-fi and fantasy novels, they were raised by Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke and Piers Anthony, and all these folks are now inheriting the entertainment industry. That's why you're seeing now this new wave. In some cases, the nostalgic remakes can get a little frustrating, but we're seeing this new wave of mainstream media absorbing and geek culture becoming culture. And it can be a little scary at times, especially for those of us who had to fight so hard to make that our identity growing up. And for some folks, it's hard to let that go. But I see the other side of it. I think it's really exciting that now so many more people can be part of what inspired us to be who we are today. And that we can share these experiences with people. The kids that might have beaten us up in high school or elementary school are now coming back being like, oh, I'm sorry about that. By the way, that costume is really cool. Can you show me how to make that armor? And you're like, yes. Yes, I can. And I think there's something so beautiful about that. And this is just one of those facets of that rising geek culture is role-playing games coming back to the forefront. And nothing makes me more excited than getting all these Twitter photos of all these fans, all these critters of our show, sending us videos or images from their home games and telling us stories from their experiences. And I'll get home at night before I go to bed and just take 20, 30 minutes just reading through these stories of other people's adventures, many of them that started playing because of our show, and I feel like a proud papa. It's really exciting. But anyway, nevertheless, I'm going to stop mouth rambling at you for a while, and we'll start getting some questions. So Ginny, over there with the microphone, we'll go ahead and I'll call people. She'll come to you and just ask your question into the microphone. Use your breath, use your diaphragm so I can hear you, and I'll answer those questions accordingly. So let's see. Let's start this lonely dice holding lady over here.
That's fine.
Please. Hello again. Oh yes, I'm from the earlier panel. Good to see you. So, what is your name and your question?
My name is Jocelyn.
Hello again, Jocelyn.
Do you remember the characters I drew for you in the picture I gave to you?
Yeah, I have the poster up in my hotel room.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that.
If Crom, Kanji, and Levi, which was the eyes for one of them, fell into the realm of Critical Role, what do you think each of their reactions would be?
If Levi, Kanji, and Crom all fell into the world of Critical Role.
Yup!
Crom would be frustrated that the party would never let him fight with them. Because you gotta continue the Smash Brothers joke. Levi would swoop in every boss battle to be the Deus Ex Machina and make everyone feel like really crappy players. And Kanji would start a shop with Gilmore. Because that would be hilarious. As a fan of your film, Mr. Ralph there, I want to go ahead and take your question. You can if you'd like to. You may stand if you wish. To get you everyone your fantastic outfit. Yeah.
Yep. Well, the person who's not standing up because I constantly embarrass her because that's the kind of person I am. Is my girlfriend. She's the one that made this because I'm a filthy casual and it has to actually work.
Well done, you did a great job.
She did a wonderful job and she puts up with me, which I think reserves some applause for myself at least. But I have been watching your show since day one.
Oh, what?
Yeah. I've been watching it and it's what got me through my first year of college. It was just wait until Thursday because at least it'll give me something to think about other than this. Because engineering's hard and I didn't realize it would be.
It's hard, but it's important, man. It needs engineers.
Oh yeah, of course. But my actual question is a two-parter because I don't think I'm ever gonna get to ask you questions ever again. First one.
You won't. This is your last chance.
We'll see about that.
No, what's the question?
Kermit doesn't like your attitude, okay? All right.
Sorry, what's your
So the first one is, how do you get into your head and modulate your voice to find the different kinds of accents that you use on the show? How do you like perfect them and think of them and use them in the appropriate situation? And the other one is, have you ever had your own player character from a previous game that you've shoved into the game as like your own little Easter egg that only you know about?
I'll answer the second question first. Yes, actually. It happened pre-stream, and he may come back at some point in the game, but they were temporarily managed for an underground fight ring called the Brawlers League by a bald, one-eyed, beardless dwarf named Grimthor. Graden Grimthor, and he wanted to manage them for an underground fighting ring, and we'll split the proceeds. What do you say, eh? That was my Dwarven Fighter I played in my first 4th edition game, way back when this first came out, and we didn't know better. Which, let me say, 4E had some things going for it. They were a handful. And they carried this over to 5E, and the rest they went, nope. But yeah, so I brought him over into that game to be an NPC for a few elements, and he's still out there in the world, Tal'Dorei somewhere, probably. I don't think he fell in Mon, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't think he was. But yeah, so that and there's been a few other NPCs that are parts of player characters I may have played in the past that I kind of, brought over. To answer the first part of your question, being crazy helps tremendously. A lot of it's just practice. It's spending a lot of time by yourself talking to yourself, which I do a lot. Whether it be in the shower or while driving, I'm perpetually just improvising scenes. I'm the crazy guy under the overpass, and I accept that. But no, it's practicing and finding your range, learning textures, listening to yourself back a lot. Like you would train for any other voiceover element, you read out loud a lot, and just find what strange places your voice can go, and then record them when you get something pretty cool. And I have a whole slew of audio recordings at home of just random voices I came up with on the drive to some place, and oh cool, record 10 seconds, and then can use that later for reference to try and find my way back. As far as accents go, you can either study the IPA, which is the International Phonetic Alphabet, which is an actual phonetic breakdown of how you can learn dialects by just visually reading it spelled out through this alphabet. I know it sounds strange, it's very technical. I don't do that. I'm more of an ear learner, so I listen and repeat and kind of learn through just experiencing and listening. And there's a great website called the IDEA, the International Dialects of English Archive. It's all free, it's all on the internet, and they have audio files of people speaking in English from all over the world with all the different types of accents and dialects you could possibly really hope to find. And the recordings over the past 50, 60 years. And they can be, you choose like Asia, and then you choose the lower countries, and then you choose the region, and then you choose the city, and then they'll have people who've lived there for part of their life, and you get to hear what that natural dialect or accent sounds like. And so those are really, really good places to reference. And in my games, when I'm designing it for an NPC, sometimes I'll consider regionally where they came from, and find some sort of a real world tie-in to it. That way it makes it a little easier transition, it makes it a little more believable. If they're an exotic character, I might pick dialects that are similar to a more exotic realm from our world. Or sometimes I just want them to stand out and be unique, and I'll pick something that's different from most of the other NPCs they've encountered in the region. So there's no true rhyme or reason as to why I'll do consistent dialects, other than dwarves being between Scottish and Cornwall, West Country, because I just love that trope so much. But yeah, and you just take notes. For every NPC, beyond just like their physical attributes, their general personality and things that they're seeking to do, I'll put in parentheses, higher vocal range, comma, light texture, comma, brash and loud, no volume control. Or, low, gritty, comma, almost nearly a badass whisper, comma, hint of cockney. And that way, if they ever want to encounter the NPC down the road, even if I don't remember 20 episodes ago when they showed up, I can quickly look at their NPC note and at least get in the ballpark to how they sound before without having to tell players, hold on a second, I gotta go look up the episode. All right, it sounds like this, just take way too long. Good question. All right, let's go ahead and let's give some love to the back row, the gentleman with the light blue shirt and the glasses. Mike's coming your way. Thank you, Ginny. You're going to applause for Ginny for running around.
Okay, so I have two questions. Very easy. For the first one is yes or no. Are there any kitsunes in your world?
Any kitsunes?
Yes.
I haven't thought of that. Not yet, but it's also still a developing thing. Like, I haven't completed the entire world of Exandria. No, I have like a few sections that are pretty well fleshed out, and a lot that will continue to be fleshed out over time, because I'm already way too busy.
The second one is, sometime down the line, could there be a possible way you DM a giant battle royale of Vox Machina versus Acquisitions Incorporated?
Yes.
That would be beyond my scope to organize. That would be something to do like along with the Dungeons and Dragons crew and the scheduled timing of everyone else on the Acquisitions Inc. team. I mean, that'd be a lot of fun. That would also be a very crazy battle. Plus, I'm pretty sure Vox Machina right now is at a higher level than the Acquisitions.
Well, they're actually level 15 right now, so.
Oh, they're level 13 now?
No, 15.
15?
Yes.
Oh.
As of PAX East, they're level 15.
Then never mind. Then yeah. I mean, we'd have to get them behind it. It would have to be a scheduled thing with everybody able to make it, but I'd be down.
Finally, could I give you my first Dungeons and Dragon dice?
Why? Why? That's your first head. You should keep that.
I want you to have my first. You've inspired me to become a better Dungeon.
It's supposed to be emotional. It should be a fun tale. Purple too. I know this brand. This is my first brand of this one. It was green. That I bought at Asylum Comics and Cards in Agora. I totally forgot about that. It's where I used to play Magic the Gathering before I started playing D&D. Yeah, so many of us lost a lot of money to that game. And I blame Ian Sinclair for getting me back into it a year ago. It was like 20 years clean of Magic the Gathering, and he's like, "Hey man, check out these cool planeswalkers." I'm like, "That's pretty cool." But no, I'm over the whole card collector game. I got burned on the World of Warcraft card game when that came out. He's like, "Hey man, you want to go in on a box with me? We'll split it half." I'm like, "No, okay." Now I have like 4 decks. It's a problem. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get to this side of the room a little bit. Let's go. I have to go Lucina. I'm a little biased. Yes, daughter.
Wow.
Since you played 2 major roles in both the latest Fire Emblem games, what is your favorite thing about being part of the Fire Emblem world?
My favorite part of being part of the Fire Emblem world?
Yes.
I'm a big proponent of classic Japanese RPGs. It's what I grew up playing. I had a period of time in my middle school years, between 6th and 8th grade, where my ritual was Friday after school, go to Blockbuster Video. For those who don't know, that used to be a place where you go to get videos or games for a short time, and then return it. And if you didn't, they found your family and murdered them with debt. But yeah, I rented Friday, and then try and beat the RPG by Sunday when it was due. And so I went to like the Lufia series, the Breath of Fire series, Secret of Evermore, got even like the old school NES Star Tropics. Earthbound, like so many, it was all I did. So, but the Fire Emblem games the original ones never came out here, but I remember seeing artwork in magazines, and I was really excited that one day they would start bringing it over, and then when the first Smash Brothers came out, they still didn't really have representation here in the North America, and so everyone was like, "Who are these weird looking guys with swords?" I'm like, "You shut up! They're cool in other languages." So for me, it was really exciting to be a part of bringing the awareness to that great classic series over into the US when we got bootlegging. And so that was really exciting for me personally, because then I had a chance to really play that wasn't like a fan translation that you had to find out an emulator online that usually ended up crashing your computer. And then got to watch the fandom rise out of it too, and have all these people that also really enjoyed it and got back into like tactical RPGs. And so my biggest joy out of that was just being a part of its kind of its awakening here in the US. I know, that wasn't intentional. It just worked out that way. Deal with it. It's like it was fate. Good question.